My baby shower was supposed to be the one day that belonged entirely to me and the little girl kicking inside of me. A day full of happiness. But then, Madison walked in. "Congratulations," Madison said, loud enough to cut the room. She wasn't invited. She walked straight to Brent, shoved a glossy bag into his chest, and smiled like she'd rehearsed it. He flinched. His fingers closed around the handles and then let go, as if it burned. I stepped in. "Who is she, Brent?" Madison didn't look at him. "Ask your husband," she said, "but open it first." I took the bag, thick envelope. I broke the seal. DNA test results. Brent reached for it. I pulled back and read, "Probability of paternity, 0%. Madison snatched the paper and lifted it high. "He's not the father of your baby. He's the father of mine." I looked at Brent. Nothing. Just panic. "Read it properly," I told her. Her smile shook. She checked the names, reread the line. "0?" Her voice cracked. "0, I said. She stared at Brent. "You told me—" He found half a sentence. "I never said—" "You implied," I said. "Both of you did." Madison's chin lifted. "He's been with me for months. And yet the test says he isn't the father of your baby." Noise rolled across the room as the story flipped. I didn't blink. "They mixed it up," she insisted. "Or you did," I said. "More than once." She shifted, angry and exposed. "You're the one clinging to a dead marriage." "I'm carrying our child," I said. "And I'm done pretending he's a man worth defending." Brent's palm hovered near my arm. "Hillary, let's talk outside." "You let Madison walk into my baby shower with a stunt meant to wreck me," I said. "We'll talk when I'm finished." Madison put the paper on a table and squared her shoulders. "He loves me." I looked at Brent. "Do you?" He stared at the floor. "That's your answer," I told her. She sneered. "You can't hold his attention even while pregnant." I felt the baby kick. A clean, hard reminder. "You just proved you can't hold a timeline." She slammed her palm on the table. The paper slid. She caught it by a corner and shook. "You don't get to talk to me like that." "I already did." Brent raised both hands. "Enough. This isn't the place." "You made it the place," I said. "When you chose lies over your family." "I messed up," he said. "I'll fix it." "You can't fix this," I said. "You can only live with it." Madison pressed into him. "Tell her you're leaving with me." He stayed still. "Tell her," she repeated, quieter, almost pleading. He looked at me like he wanted me to rescue him from the mess he made. "Hillary," something clicked inside me. Not a break. A lock. I folded the report. "This will be useful," I said. "Not for the reason you planned." Madison laughed without humor. "You think paper saves your marriage?" "It saves my time." She frowned. "Meaning?" "I'm done wasting any of it." "You won't leave him," she said. I turned to Brent and he saw it before he felt it. My hand met his cheek with a clean, hard sound. He staggered, eyes wide. Madison gasped. "Are you insane?" "No," I said. "I'm awake." I faced him. "You cheated while I carried your child. You let your mistress try to humiliate me with a test that humiliated her. You made me small for months. That ends now." He touched the red mark. "Not here. Here," I said. "Where you chose it." I took a photo of the report. Not for the internet. For the lawyer? For the file I'd start tonight. Madison bristled. "What are you? A cop?" "I'm a mother," I said, "and I'm done negotiating with liars." She squared off. "You think you can take everything? I can take back what's mine." Brent tried the soft tone he used to bury problems. "Calm down. We'll figure it out." "I'm calm," I said. "You'll notice when your card stops working." His head snapped up. "What?" "You'll find out." "She's bluffing," Madison muttered. "Stand next to him long enough," I said, "and you'll learn I don't bluff." He stared. "What are you talking about?" "The rest of your life," I said. "And mine." Someone behind me said my name. I didn't turn. I looked at Madison. Next time you bring a gift, make sure it isn't a confession. She crushed the paper in her fist. You think you're better than me? I think I'm done with both of you. I moved to go. Brent stepped in my path. I stepped around him. Hillary, he said, almost a whisper. I stopped long enough to meet his eyes. You invited destruction into our house and gave it a chair. We can fix it, he said. You can carry it, I replied. I walked. No rush, no wobble, just forward. At the doors, I rested a hand against the steady weight of the baby who didn't ask for any of this. I will protect you, I said softly. I will build us a life he can't touch. Outside, the air hit clean and cold. My hands were steady. My thoughts were organized. I opened my phone and started a list. Lawyer, accounts, documents, house. Names and numbers I already knew went into a new order. The plan began the way all plans begin. One call, then another. A door opened behind me. I didn't look back. I'm done being your secret, I said to the world I was walking into. Now I'm your consequence. Brent and I had been married for 7 years. We weren't some whirlwind romance. We built something piece by piece. I met him when I was 25, fresh out of grad school, still paying off loans, working long hours. He was charming, ambitious, and he made me feel like I wasn't fighting alone. We scraped together a down payment on our first home in Homer Glen. Every upgrade, every piece of furniture, every coat of paint was a memory of the work we put in. I gave up more than he ever did. When his company relocated him an hour out of the city, I left a job I loved to follow him. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd restart my career after we settled. Then his promotions came, and then the long hours, and then the promises that things would even out. They never did. The financial part was tangled. My parents passed early, and the small inheritance they left me became our safety net. I dipped into it for the house, for his MBA program, for the business trips that would pay off in the long run. He liked to say we're a team, but somehow team always meant my sacrifices and his benefits. The baby changed everything, or so I thought. We tried for years, and when I finally saw those 2 lines on the test, I was overjoyed. He hugged me, cried even, said this was the start of the family he always wanted. But soon after, he started staying late again. Work's picking up, pressure from the top. Same excuses I'd heard before, only now I was too tired and too hopeful to fight. The signs were there, receipts from places I hadn't been. A second phone he swore was just for work. Nights he came home smelling like cologne he didn't wear. I told myself not to be paranoid. I convinced myself I was being hormonal, that I couldn't afford to stress for the baby's sake. But my sister Emily didn't buy it. She saw him once at a cafe in Orland Park with Madison. Said they were sitting close, laughing too hard, like 2 people who weren't worried about being caught. When she told me, I brushed it off. I said maybe it was work, maybe it was innocent. She gave me a look I'll never forget, like she couldn't believe I was still protecting him. The closer my due date got, the harder it was to ignore. He'd miss doctor appointments. He'd forget to move money into the joint account when bills were due. I started to feel like a single parent before my daughter was even born. Still, I hung on, because that's what you do when you've built your life with someone. You hang on until you can't anymore. The baby shower was supposed to be proof that I wasn't crazy, that I was still loved, still celebrated, still part of something bigger than the betrayal buzzing under the surface. Instead, Madison made sure it was the day no one in that room would ever forget. After the stunt she pulled, Emily was the first one to reach me outside. She grabbed my arm, steadied me, and said, "You can't deny it anymore, Hill. He's been cheating. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows now." Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. But deep down, I knew she was right. Whatever excuses I had left evaporated in that moment. The betrayal wasn't just suspicion, it was fact. And fact demands consequences. The night after the shower, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat at the dining table with a notebook and a pen. Every sound in the house felt too loud. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, Brent pacing upstairs. But my thoughts were sharper than they'd ever been. For years, I had lived in reaction mode. He set the pace. I adjusted. He wanted the move. I packed. He wanted the MBA. I paid. He wanted long hours. I waited. That ended now. I started my list. Lawyer, bank accounts, documents, house title, phone records. Every line was a step closer to freedom, a step away from the woman who let herself be lied to. The first thing I did was call my bank. It was close to midnight, but I had the numbers memorized. The inheritance account was in my name only, thank God. I transferred the remaining balance to a secure sub-account he didn't know about. Next, I froze the joint credit card. When the representative asked if I wanted to block his card too, I didn't hesitate. Yes. The next morning, I gathered the paperwork, marriage license, property deeds, the savings account statements. I stacked them neatly in a folder and slid it into my tote. Every move had to be deliberate. Pregnant or not, I refused to play victim. At 9 sharp, I called Emily. She didn't even say hello, just, "Tell me you're leaving him." "I'm not leaving yet," I said. "I'm dismantling." She let out a breath. Good. About time. By noon, I had my first meeting with a lawyer. A woman named Carla. Firm handshake, no-nonsense tone. She didn't waste time on sympathy. "Do you want blood or do you want clean?" "I want both," I said. She nodded. "Then we start with leverage. Financials first, custody second. Do not tell him you've hired me." I promised I wouldn't. That afternoon, I went home and started packing. Not my clothes, not my daughter's things. I packed away documents, valuables, the jewelry my mother left me. I hid them in Emily's car when she came over that evening. Brent walked in late, smelling of whiskey and desperation, and muttered, "Rough day at work." I didn't answer. The first shock hit him the next morning. He tried to pay for gas and the card declined. He called me from the station, voice tight with anger. "What the hell, Hillary? Why is the account frozen?" "Because it's mine too," I said. "And I don't intend to fund your dates with Madison." Silence. Then, "You're being dramatic. Try buying groceries on your own card," I replied, and hung up. That evening, I locked the bedroom door. He pounded on it, demanded we talk like adults. I stayed silent. Let him stew in it. The man who thought he controlled every narrative suddenly had no access, no explanations, no way back. The following day, I listed the house for appraisal. Not to sell it immediately, just to make sure I knew its worth before he tried anything. The realtor walked through, impressed with the upgrades, and said it would sell fast. That was all I needed to hear. By Friday, I had spoken to Carla again. She drafted the preliminary filings, divorce, custody, division of assets. She reminded me, "Don't let him see these until we serve him." I agreed. Meanwhile, Madison's stunt had already circulated through the neighborhood. Videos of her screaming at the baby shower were everywhere. A clip of me slapping Brent was on TikTok with thousands of views. I didn't post it, but I didn't care. Let the world see what he'd reduced himself to. Let them see what I was walking away from. The second shock came on Saturday. Brent stormed into the kitchen, face red, voice raised. "Do you have any idea what people are saying about me?" "Yes," I said, buttering toast. "I hear they're accurate." "You're enjoying this," he accused. I met his eyes. "I'm surviving this." He slammed his fist on the counter. "We can fix it if you just stop overreacting." "Overreacting?" I laughed, sharp and humorless. "You had a mistress show up to my baby shower with DNA papers. That's not something you fix with flowers." His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He had no script left. I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked past him. "From now on, you'll see me in courtrooms and through lawyers, not in this kitchen." By the end of that week, Brent had lost access to the accounts. The house was on track for division, and every valuable was out of his reach. He still had his arrogance, but arrogance doesn't pay bills. And that's when it hit him. He wasn't the one pulling strings anymore. I was. And I wasn't stopping. By the time Monday rolled around, the ripples were already spreading. Brent liked to believe he was bulletproof, but bulletproof men don't get declined at restaurants. I found out because his coworker's wife, who was at the shower, texted Emily. She said Brent had tried to treat his team to lunch on the company card, but when the waiter returned, the bill was still sitting there. Declined. He had to excuse himself, shuffle out, and return with cash from an ATM. Word traveled fast in offices like his. Men who once admired his confidence now whispered about him behind his back. At home, his mood was darker. He stomped around the house at night, slammed doors, muttered under his breath. The arrogance hadn't vanished, but the cracks were showing. He still tried to play husband in public, making small gestures, checking in on my pregnancy appointments. But I could see the panic in his eyes when his phone buzzed. Madison wasn't faring any better. The video of her stunt at the baby shower had spread through Homer Glen like wildfire. Teenagers turned her screaming 0% into a meme. Someone added captions, another added sound effects. She'd wanted to be the star of the show, and in a way she was. But not the way she planned. Emily sent me screenshots of Madison's co-workers commenting online. Embarrassing. Trashy. Doesn't even know who the father is. By Wednesday, Madison had deactivated her Instagram. Her friends stopped tagging her in anything. She was radioactive. Brent, of course, tried to downplay it all. One night, he cornered me in the living room. People love drama. It'll blow over. I didn't look up from my laptop. It's not blowing over. It's multiplying. You think you've won something? He snapped. I don't need to win, I said. I just need to tell the truth, and you've done most of that work for me. His jaw flexed. You're turning people against me. They turn themselves, I said. All I did was step out of the way. The family dynamic shifted too. My mother-in-law, who had once clung to the fantasy that her son could do no wrong, stopped calling. Emily overheard her at the grocery store, telling a friend she didn't recognize him anymore. Brent's younger brother texted me directly. Whatever you decide, I'm on your side. He crossed a line. Even his father, who lived 2 towns over and rarely involved himself, left a voicemail on our landline. His voice was stern, colder than I'd ever heard. You're about to lose everything, Brent. And you'll deserve it. I saved the message. Meanwhile, I made sure my moves stayed quiet but steady. Carla, my lawyer, advised me to document everything. Every time he slammed a door, every time he raised his voice, every penny he tried to pull from our joint accounts. I logged it. Evidence wasn't just for court. It was for survival. On Thursday night, I watched him scroll furiously through his phone, pacing. Finally, he threw it on the couch and said, She's blaming me for everything. Madison's telling people I tricked her, that I lied about leaving you. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you? His silence was all the answer I needed. She's threatening to tell my boss, he muttered. Good, I said. Save me the trouble. He shot me a glare. You think this is funny? No, I said evenly. I think it's justice. Friday was the first time he tried to reach me in desperation. I was staying at Emily's for the weekend, and around 9 at night I heard a knock at the door. She opened it halfway and blocked him with her body. Hillary, please, he begged from the porch. His voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. Can we talk? Just 10 minutes. I stood in the hallway, far enough back that he couldn't see me. My daughter kicked, almost like she knew who was outside. Emily's voice was firm. She doesn't owe you a thing. I'm her husband, he shouted. Not for long, Emily snapped, slamming the door. I pressed my hand against the wall, steadying myself. Part of me wanted to run out there, scream at him, ask him why I wasn't enough. But another part of me, the part that had sat at the table with the notebook, the part that had frozen the accounts and packed the documents, knew better. I whispered to myself, let him knock. Let him beg. I'm already gone. And with that, the consequences were no longer just whispers. They were here, loud and visible, eating away at him while I built the next move. I wasn't planning on seeing him again so soon, but Brent had a talent for forcing himself into my orbit. It was a Saturday night, and Emily insisted we go out. "You need air, Hill. You can't just hide." She was right. So we went to a new Italian place downtown, packed, noisy, with tables pressed close together. The kind of place where every word carried. Halfway through our meal, I heard his voice. I froze, fork in midair. Emily looked up, following my stare. And there he was. Brent. At the bar. And sitting right beside him, Madison. It felt staged, like he'd chosen the one place I'd go, but the truth was worse. He didn't care who saw him. He wasn't ashamed. He was parading her. Emily whispered, "We can leave." "No," I said. My pulse was steady. "Not this time." I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked straight to the bar. Heads turned as people recognized me. The slap from the shower had already been seen by half the town. The tension followed me like a spotlight. Brent's eyes widened when he saw me, then narrowed as he tried to recover. Madison smirked like she'd already won. "Well, if it isn't the guest of honor," she said. "Baby shower part 2? I didn't flinch. I reached for the glass in Brent's hand and set it down hard on the bar. "Still drinking your shame away, I see." He lowered his voice. "Hillary, don't do this here." "Here is perfect," I said. "Here is where you've chosen to flaunt the woman who humiliated herself in front of my family." Madison leaned in. "Correction. He chose me. That's why he's sitting with me now." I laughed, sharp enough to cut glass. "Chosen? Madison, he can't even pay for his own dinner anymore. You're sitting with a man who can't buy gas without begging." Gasps rose from nearby tables. Someone pulled out a phone. Brent's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "I know everything," I said. "I know you drained our accounts. I know you let her walk into my baby shower with fake confidence and real stupidity. I know you're a man who sacrifices nothing but expects everything." Madison's cheeks flushed. "You're pathetic. Still clinging to a marriage that's dead." I stepped closer, my voice clear and deliberate. "The marriage is dead because you poisoned it, and the whole town knows it. That video? It's not going away. Every laugh, every whisper, every meme. Those are your legacy." The restaurant had gone silent. Even the servers froze mid-step. Brent hissed, "Stop making a scene." "You made the scene," I said. "You made it the day you brought your mistress into our lives." I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and held it up. The voicemail from his father's voice filled the room. "You're about to lose everything, Brent, and you'll deserve it." The color drained from his face. Madison's smirk faltered. "That," I said loudly enough for the entire restaurant, "is your own father talking. Even he's finished with you." Phones everywhere recorded. People leaned forward like they were watching a play. Brent tried to stand, but I pressed a hand against his chest. "Sit. You wanted to live this double life in public? Now you live the consequences in public, too." I turned to Madison. "You wanted him so badly? He's yours. Broke, disowned, and drowning. Congratulations." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked around at the eyes staring at her. The humiliation she once tried to hand me now clung to her skin like sweat. Brent muttered, "We should go." "No," I said. "You stay. You finish your meal. Let everyone here see exactly who you are." I straightened, looked around at the watching faces, and dropped the line I'd been waiting to say. "This man isn't just my cheating husband. He's the cautionary tale you tell your daughters. What happens when you mistake arrogance for love?" The words hung in the air like a verdict. I turned, walked back to my table with Emily, and picked up my fork. My hands didn't shake. My appetite hadn't left. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping, Madison hissing at him, Brent whispering frantic words no one cared about. By the time I left, I knew the footage would be online within the hour. And unlike the baby shower, this time I hadn't been ambushed. This time I had controlled the scene. And this time, the humiliation wasn't mine to carry. Brent always thought he could talk his way out of anything. He'd built his whole career on it. Smooth presentations, confident handshakes, polished lies. But talking doesn't erase evidence, and it doesn't erase a woman's memory. After the restaurant, the video spread like gasoline on dry grass. Strangers reposted it with captions. Cautionary tale. Never ignore red flags. Teenagers on TikTok stitched it with the slap from the shower, turning my pain into their entertainment. I should have felt humiliated, but I didn't. Every share was another nail in his coffin. Brent panicked. His first move was Facebook. A long post, polished like a press release. To family and friends. You may have seen misleading videos about my marriage. My wife has been struggling emotionally during pregnancy. Outbursts are normal at this stage, and I love her dearly despite them. Please respect our privacy while we heal as a family. I read it 3 times. Outbursts? Privacy? Heal? He wasn't just deflecting, he was painting me as unstable. The comments shredded him. Gaslighting your pregnant wife is a new low. She caught you with the Mistress, dude. We all saw it. Respect your privacy? You let it play out at her baby shower. His colleagues stopped liking his posts. A few unfollowed, but he wasn't done. 2 days later, Madison joined him. She recorded a shaky Instagram story, sitting too close to him on a couch. Her eyeliner smudged, her tone pitiful. People don't know the whole story. Brent loves me, and he's been planning to leave her for months. The baby is ours. The internet can be so cruel. She must have thought sympathy would save her. Instead, it detonated in her face. Within hours, someone leaked text screenshots, her bragging to a friend that Brent would never have the guts to leave, that she only wanted him to pay her bills until she found someone better. Receipts. Brutal, undeniable receipts. The screenshots trended faster than their video. Hashtags popped up. Madison math for the 0% DNA results. Brent the rent mocking his empty accounts. Cautionary, Brent turning my line at the restaurant into a slogan. Brent tried again. This time, LinkedIn. A polished article about resilience through personal challenges and how rumors don't define character. He even added a line about supporting my wife during pregnancy. The comment section roasted him alive. Supporting her? By bringing your mistress to her shower? You can't thought leadership your way out of infidelity. Man, delete this before your boss sees it. He deleted it within a day, but screenshots had already spread. That week I walked into Carla's office and found her scrolling her phone, smirking. You don't need me to dismantle him. The internet's already doing it for free. Good, I said. Let them keep going. Brent's desperation reached its peak when a local reporter called. She'd seen the videos, heard the gossip, and asked for my comment. I said no. I didn't need to speak. The silence was more powerful. But Brent couldn't resist. He gave an interview. On camera, he tried to look sincere, clasping his hands, lowering his voice. I've made mistakes, but my wife is exaggerating. The truth is more complicated. Complicated. That was the word he chose. The clip aired that night. Within hours, new leaks surfaced. Hotel bills in his name, time-stamped during my second trimester. Photos of him and Madison leaving a downtown hotel hand in hand. Screenshots of him texting another woman entirely. She doesn't satisfy me anymore. You're different. It wasn't just one affair. It was 3. Maybe more. The internet pounced. Complicated became another meme. People stitched his interview with the receipts, captioned it. Complicated, Ian Days caught with everyone. By the end of the week, his employer issued a statement. We take allegations of misconduct seriously. Effective immediately, Brent Ferris is no longer employed with our firm. Unemployed, publicly shamed, and it wasn't even my doing. It was his own trail of arrogance catching fire. Madison disappeared, deleted her accounts, stopped showing up in public. I heard through whispers that she quit her job after coworkers circulated memes about her in the break room. Brent, meanwhile, was left with nothing but the echo chamber of his own lies. He showed up outside Emily's house again, this time shouting, "They're ruining me!" Emily called the cops. When the cruiser pulled up, he scattered like a teenager. That night, I lay in bed and felt my daughter roll. I pressed my hand against the curve of my stomach. "We're safe," I whispered. "He can't hurt us anymore." And for the first time since the shower, I believed it. Because he hadn't just lost me. He'd lost his career, his mistress, his reputation, and now the world saw him exactly the way I did. Not as a man, not as a husband, but as a cautionary tale. The morning I filed, I felt lighter than I had in months. Carla slid the papers across her desk, her pen tapping against the wood. "This starts the clock," she said. "Once he's served, everything shifts into legal time. Your rules, not his." I nodded. No hesitation. No second guessing. Just resolve. Brent was served at his apartment 3 days later. I wasn't there, but Emily's friend who worked in the building said he went pale, cursed at the process server, and slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. By nightfall, he was blowing up my phone. Voicemails, texts, even emails. "We don't need lawyers. We can work this out. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to us." There was no us anymore. Just a man scrambling to protect what was left of his image. Carla and I went line by line through everything. The house, the accounts, the car titles, custody. She was relentless, and I matched her energy. "We go for full custody," she said, and I agreed instantly. He hadn't even shown up to half my prenatal appointments. "We secure the house," she added. Done. My inheritance had funded it anyway. The first hearing was brutal, but not for me. Brent walked in with a new suit that didn't quite fit, his lawyer looking half-prepared. When the judge asked why he hadn't been contributing financially during the pregnancy, his excuses stumbled over themselves. "I lost my job because of online slander," Carla pounced. "Your Honor, his termination was due to documented misconduct. Multiple affairs, misuse of company funds. The so-called slander was video evidence of his own behavior." The judge's eyes cut through him like glass. "We won temporary custody on the spot. Sole decision-making authority." Brent looked like he'd swallowed a knife. Next came the finances. Brent had always believed he was the breadwinner, the one steering the ship. But when Carla unveiled the paper trail, it was clear. My inheritance had paid for most of the house, his MBA, even half the down payment on his car. He'd been living large on money that wasn't his. The judge ordered temporary spousal support in my favor. Brent's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth would shatter. "I don't even have a job," he snapped. "Then you'd better get one," the judge said flatly. The fallout outside the courtroom was even harsher. His father called me the same night. "I want you to know," he said, voice heavy. "I'm ashamed he carries my name. You'll have my support in this divorce." He paused. "And he'll have nothing from me." I thanked him, though the sadness in his voice cut deeper than I expected. Disowning your own son wasn't a victory. It was a reminder of how far Brent had fallen. His younger brother reached out too. He burned every bridge. I warned him. "You do what you need to do, Hillary. He's not family anymore." Even his mother, who had once clung to denial like a lifeline, stopped defending him. At the grocery store, she walked right past him in the aisle. A neighbor told me later she'd said, "That's not my son." Not anymore. Madison? She was gone. After the receipts leaked, she tried to hold on, but by now she'd become a punchline. Her pregnancy was her own problem, and without Brent's money, she had nothing to show for it. I heard she left town. I didn't care where. The second hearing sealed it. Carla walked the court through every detail: his infidelity, his financial recklessness, his neglect during the pregnancy. Brent tried to argue he deserved joint custody, that he was still a good father. The judge asked, "How many medical appointments did you attend during your wife's pregnancy?" He stammered. "1, maybe 2. "And how many did you miss?" Silence. The gavel came down. Sole custody awarded to me. Brent granted visitation only under supervision until after the baby was born and a review was conducted. The courtroom murmured. Brent's face collapsed. I had never seen him look so small. Financially, he was gutted. The house? Mine. The accounts? Frozen, with my portion secured. His car? Repossessed within weeks when he failed to make payments. His severance package? Seized in part for support. I didn't celebrate. I documented. Every check, every order, every legal step. My victory wasn't in shouting. It was in receipts, signatures, court orders stamped in ink. By the end of the month, Brent was living in a one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. No family, no friends, no job. The man who once strutted into parties like he owned the room now avoided eye contact in grocery stores. People whispered when they saw him. Not admiration. Pity, disgust, ridicule. One night, Emily showed me a post from a community Facebook group. Someone had spotted Brent walking to the bus stop in the rain. The caption read, "From BMW to CTA, life comes at you fast." The comments were merciless. I almost pitied him. Almost. But then I remembered the baby shower, the DNA stunt, the way he tried to gaslight me as unstable. My pity evaporated. Brent reached out one last time through email. It was long, rambling, almost incoherent. He blamed me, blamed Madison, blamed the internet, blamed his father. At the end, he wrote, "You'll regret this when our daughter asks where her father is." I didn't reply. Instead, I saved it in the same folder with the court documents. Evidence. Another reminder. Because regret wasn't mine to carry. It was his. And as I stood in my daughter's nursery weeks later, folding tiny onesies into drawers, I felt something close to peace. The war wasn't over. The final confrontation still waited. But the battlefield had shifted. He wasn't standing tall anymore. He wasn't even standing. He was already on his knees. The divorce was final. The ink had dried. The judge's gavel had dropped. And for the first time in years, I could breathe without the weight of Brent hanging over me. I thought I'd never see him again, until he showed up outside the courthouse, waiting like a ghost that hadn't realized it was already dead. He looked nothing like the man I once married. His suit was wrinkled, the tie loose, his eyes red from sleepless nights. He carried himself like someone who had been hollowed out but still clung to the shell. For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. "Hillary," he said, stepping forward. His voice cracked, raw and uneven. "Please, just hear me out." I didn't answer. I adjusted the strap of my bag on my shoulder and kept walking. He moved in front of me, blocking my path. "I've lost everything. My job, my family, Madison. She's gone. I can't sleep. I can't think. You're all I have left." I let the silence stretch. He wanted me to fill it with comfort, with softness. That version of me was gone. "You don't mean that," I said finally. "What you mean is, I was the last person who tolerated your lies, and now no one does." His face twisted. "I made mistakes, but I loved you." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Loved me? You dragged your mistress into my baby shower to humiliate me. You tried to gaslight me as unstable in front of the world. That's not love. That's control." He flinched. "I didn't know it would go that far. Madison, she pushed it. I cut him off. "Stop blaming her. You opened the door. You invited her into our lives. You destroyed your marriage with your own hands." His shoulders slumped, but his eyes darted, desperate. "Can't we just start over? For the baby? She deserves a father." "She has a father," I said coldly. "She doesn't need a liar poisoning her life. She needs protection from men like you." He took a step closer. "Don't do this. I can change. Please, Hillary, I'll do anything. I'll get help. I'll get a new job. I'll prove it." "Prove it to yourself," I said. "Because you'll never get the chance to prove it to me again." His face crumpled. He pressed his hands together like he was praying. "Don't walk away. I can't live like this. I can't be nothing. That was the moment I saw it. The truth he'd hidden for years. Brent had never loved me. He had loved the reflection of himself through me. The devoted wife, the stable home, the inheritance money, the future he didn't have to build alone. Now that it was gone, so was he. I leaned in just enough that he couldn't mistake my words. You're not nothing because of me. You're nothing because of you. You're the architect of your own destruction. He froze, like the words had struck harder than any slap. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped back, adjusted my bag again, and turned toward the street. Goodbye, Brent. This time, I didn't look back. I walked down the courthouse steps into the daylight, every step carrying me farther from the man who once thought he owned me. Behind me, I heard him call my name, his voice breaking, but it didn't matter. His words had no power left. What mattered was the silence inside me, the calm after the storm. For the first time in years, it wasn't filled with his noise. It was filled with possibility. And I wasn't his anymore. The first time I held my daughter, the world fell quiet. All the chaos, the court dates, the shouting matches, they didn't matter anymore. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and in that moment, I knew the war had been worth it. Every scar I carried had led me to this. We left the hospital with Emily driving us home. The nursery I'd finished in silence was ready, soft light filtering through the curtains. I laid my daughter in her crib, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You'll never know the version of me that stayed quiet." Motherhood reshaped me, not into someone weaker, but into someone sharper, steadier. Each night I rocked her to sleep. I thought about the choices I'd made, the inheritance I protected, the house I secured, the custody I fought for. I'd done all of it so she would grow up with safety, not shadows. Brent faded quickly. At first, he tried to fight for attention, begging emails, awkward voicemails, claims he wanted to be involved. The judge's supervision order stood firm. He showed up twice to monitored visits, stiff and defensive, then stopped coming. It wasn't long before the calls dwindled. Eventually, silence replaced them. Word of him still traveled, though. In a town like Homer Glen, everyone knew everyone else's business. I heard he was working odd jobs, loading trucks, answering phones at a call center. No car, no house, no family dinners. Just a man sitting in the ruins he'd built. Sometimes I passed him on the street. Once at the grocery store, another time at the bus stop. He looked smaller each time, shoulders hunched, clothes worn. We never spoke. I never slowed my step. My daughter, safe in her stroller, never even looked up. To her, he was just another stranger. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Slowly, piece by piece. I returned to part-time work first, writing freelance from home. Then full-time once I'd found a rhythm. Clients came, money followed, and with it came something I hadn't felt in years. Independence. Not the kind Brent had offered me like a gift, but the kind I carved out myself. Support came too. Emily was by my side. My brother-in-law helped with repairs around the house. Neighbors stopped by with meals. But more than anyone, my daughter pushed me forward. Every laugh, every milestone, every messy late-night feeding reminded me that my story wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about transformation. When she turned 6 months, I threw a small gathering. Nothing like the baby shower. No balloons, no spectacle. Just family, a few close friends, and my little girl grinning in her high chair. I caught myself laughing more than I had in years. The kind of laugh that comes from freedom. Someone asked if I ever worried Brent might try to come back into our lives. I smiled and said, "He already had his chance. He burned it. The truth is, I don't worry anymore. Not about him, not about the whispers, not about what could have been. My life is no longer defined by his absence or presence. It's defined by what I've built in spite of him. And he's irrelevant. A ghost people mention in passing, a name attached to scandals now buried under newer gossip. My daughter won't grow up hearing his stories. She'll grow up hearing mine. The story of how her mother chose strength over silence, action over fear. One evening, I sat on the porch with her asleep in my arms. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the yard. Emily came out with 2 mugs of tea and asked quietly, "Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" I looked down at my daughter's peaceful face. "Not anymore," I said. "Regret belongs to him. I got freedom, and that's the truth I carry now. Betrayal wasn't my ending. It was my beginning." Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it hit you hard, if you felt the betrayal, the fire, or even the freedom at the end, hype this video by clicking that button. I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever lived through something like this? Drop your experience or reaction in the comments below. I read them all. And if you don't want to miss the next jaw-dropping story, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. Your support keeps these stories alive.